Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. I hope that you can hear me. I hope that you can see me, unless you're, of course, listening on catch-up, in which case, if you can see me, stop looking through my window, please. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. Very much appreciate your time and, tuning in. It is very much appreciated. I start with an apology, as I so often do, but this is a later Arsenal News Show. This is not 8 a.m. Is what's most important to talk about, because the reason why it's not at the usual time at 8 a.m. and why this will be dropping into your feeds a little bit later on than it usually does is because earlier today I was working. Mikel Arteta's press conference was at 9, which means that I started at 8, and so therefore I can't do the channel during work hours because that would be wrong and dastardly. So yes, thank you ever so much, everybody, for tuning in, and apologies for the later start than usual, but thank you for your patience. Legend, good morning to you, good evening to you, or good afternoon to you. I've lost complete track and the sense of time doing this in the afternoon. Good afternoon to Stephen, to Arasilki, to Temi, Mr. Ree, I can see, Wesley, Amira, Boss, Wayne, Maximius, Arsenal Adventure. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. It's very much appreciated, and everybody else as well, and those listening on catch up too. There's no slideshow today. We're just going to be basically having a chat about Mikel Arteta's press conference in part 1, and then in part 2, we are going to be jumping over to you guys in the chat box and taking some of your questions. Robert says, surely Mikel could have changed the time of his press conference to accommodate the 8 a.m. show. I know, mate. Without question, that is what he could have done. But sadly, apparently, and this is frankly news to me, the world doesn't revolve around the channel, and I'm going to be making some complaints. I'm going to be making some stern complaints about that. Bennis Dirkkamp, which might be one of my favourite names in the chat box, says, Tom, we need to cover Ben White's hair change. Now, I don't know if it's just me and Benny going white, which is great, and I have to give Amber Lee credit in the chat box for that because I spotted that before I said it. But Benny Blanco going Blanco, Benny White going white is great. So yeah, I'm delighted with that hair. I think it's great. I don't know about you. I think it's wonderful. I think it's a really, really good choice of hair. But I'm speaking as someone who's never, ever going to be brave enough to do that themselves. I'm never going to be able to make that decision. I mean, I'm frankly not happy with this. I've had this haircut for now like a week and a bit. They did it ridiculously short. I'm used to having a lot longer. Yeah, not happy. But I am happy with Benny Blanco's new haircut. If you've not seen it, head over to the Arsenal X accounts and you'll be able to see all of it in all of its glory. And we'll, of course, see it tomorrow at Stamford Bridge as well. But it's he's maybe been taking some advice from Trossard or maybe Granit Xhaka and Kolasinac as former hairdressers. But yeah, certainly that was worth it. Let's jump into the press conference, shall we? It's probably best if I share my screen with you so you can see what I'm looking at. It's not wildly exciting, but yes, Mikel Arteta did indeed conduct his press conference, and so we've got some quotes to talk about. He was asked about the latest team news going into that game against Chelsea, and asked about it. He said, not a lot, not as in the sense of he didn't say much, but he actually said the words not a lot, which there is some obvious irony for. He says, we obviously haven't had a lot of players. It's the first training session we're going to do today, and we will know more after the session. I mean, he has obviously mastered the ability to not give us any information and use the training session that is set to take place on that day as kind of a reason not to discuss team news, which we've come to expect from him. And so certainly I am, not very surprised that he didn't say much. But we will push on because there were some more specific discussions about Saka and about his availability. If we scroll down, we will scroll back up, don't you worry. But there was some good questions about Saka, about him wanting obviously to play, if I can now find them, which they've probably escaped me. But he was asked about a burnout, which was important. He says, if you ask the players something they feel better when they are playing every 3 or 4 days, they can get a knock or an injury. This is part of the game. He was asked about if Bukayo wants to play against Chelsea, and he says, I'm sure he wants to play. I don't see any player there that doesn't want to be in the starting 11. He was also asked about William Saliba and said, hopefully, in regard, because he was kind of asked a question about the reoccurring issue and whether it's kind of a long-term thing. And he says, hopefully not, But he has been carrying that for weeks now, and we have to use that time to settle. We believe that this was the best moment to do it. And he was asked about whether he's a doubt for tomorrow, and it says it depends on how he trains today. Of course, still not necessarily giving the answers that we want, and not giving us what we need to hear in regards to team news. But certainly I'm relatively confident, and I think that you guys should be relatively confident that Saka, Saliba should be with the team tomorrow. There's an expectation that they're training today. I know that there wasn't any image of them in the training pictures, but we know what they're like. We know that they know that we are looking very, very deeply into their training pictures. So them not being there does not mean anything. I can tell you that for certain. Scrolling back up to the top, and having a look at some of the other points about the international break, he says whether you'd like the international break coming at a rather good time. He says, during a good run, you want to continue, but it is what it is. We had to use it in the right way. Obviously, we have a lot of players on duty, and now we connect everybody with the same mindset and go, because we're going to have a really difficult game against Chelsea. I think that the game against Chelsea obviously has a level of difficulty to it, but I don't think there's anybody. I don't think you guys, in particular in the chat box, for instance, are expecting anything other than a win. Is that probably fair to say? I think we're all probably expecting Arsenal to win tomorrow, and that anything other than a win is a disappointment. I know that we've looked at in the past and said, getting a draw at Chelsea, that's a great result. But frankly, with Arsenal looking to try and win a title, the aim. Sorry, I suppose. Well, no, the expectation, I think, is probably a fair word. The expectation is to win, and there's no entitlement there, but certainly there is a confidence and there is a perception of where Arsenal are compared to Chelsea. He talked about Chelsea being a more difficult game. He says it in a question about Manchester City in particular. Let me just find it. Chelsea. That's not how you spell Chelsea, because I'm on my other laptop, so I've got all these different keyboard settings. Yes, here we go. So on the Man City result, he says, it's the last experience and feeling that we had between us, and it was a beautiful one. You could see in the atmosphere the importance of the game and the way we won it and how we controlled it against that team. But it's just a game. Now it's about having consistency and keeping the standards very, very high, because the next game against Chelsea is going to be even harder. And it's that use of the terminology of saying that the Chelsea game is going to be even harder that I find very interesting. We know that Mikel Arteta obviously is a coach that likes to look at the next game. It is always that the next game is going to be the most important one. And he's always kind of leading up to the next game being the most important thing and not looking too far beyond that. But I have to say, I do find the discussion about this game being harder as a bit of a, if anything, it's a bit of a slight at Man City, because Chelsea haven't been good. And he was asked in the follow-up questions that about Chelsea's form, and he says, I think when you look first of all at the managing and coaching staff they have, the history of the club that they have, the players and the squad they have, it's going to happen. I think it has happened pretty quickly, not only in the last 3 results, but I think they deserve much more in terms of results and points than what they already have. So I can see that's going to be up there, that they're going to be up there rather in terms of the table. Chelsea have obviously, yes, they've won their last 3 games, and that includes a Carabao Cup win against Brighton and a league win against Fulham and a league win against Burnley, which, Brighton are a tough team, but they've also been a little bit up and down this season. They've had their difficulties. I mean, the 6-1 result against Villa, losing against Chelsea is not something they would have been looking at, really. But I really do think that this Chelsea game and this Chelsea team is ripe and ready for the taking, and that they have led many people maybe into a little bit of a false sense of security. I could be licking my wounds tomorrow and cursing the fact that I've been so, in a ways, hubristic or arrogant. I don't think arrogant is the right word. What's the right word I'm looking for? Hubristic is a good word. I'm showing plenty of hubris going into this one and perhaps overconfidence, but I do think we are good enough. And not only that, but there is an expectation on my end that Arsenal could play with the best 11 that we have featured in a team this season. I'm expecting Raya and White and Saliba and Gabriel and Zinchenko and Partey and Rice and Ødegaard and Saka and Martinelli and Jesus. That's what I'm expecting. That's what I'm hoping for, first of all. But I'm expecting it because I feel as though those players should be back and hopefully will be ready. So let's wait and see. But I'm very excited for tomorrow's game, and hopefully what we see is what we see is a really, really important victory. What is also really important in life, though, is safety and security, and to make sure that when you're doing the day-to-day things that you need to do, is that you have the services that will bring you that. And for me, there is really only one thing, other than a loving family and supportive network around you. But other than that, there is only one thing that can bring me the safety and security that I need. And that, of course, is NordVPN, because NordVPN is the online VPN service to bring you that security online, to give you the superpower to change a geolocation from one place to your iPad, your laptop, your phone, your whatever device you'd like, really, that uses the internet. But all of these things can use a VPN to change the geolocation so that whilst they're in one country, it thinks that it's in another, which is kind of crazy, really. But it certainly is an amazing tool to use, especially when you're abroad, as I've talked to you about before. When I was in France for the Lens game and I got back to my hotel and I wanted to watch the Champions League highlights on TNT Sports, I couldn't do that because YouTube wasn't recognizing a TNT Sports in France. But I had NordVPN. And by switching NordVPN and hopping back to the UK, digitally speaking, there we go, I was able then to do that. So if you want to get this power, and if you want to stay safe and secure online and get things like ad blockers and tracker protection and stuff like that, and use your devices in lots of different countries and territories with confidence, go to nordvpn.com/Gooner to get yourself a significant discount off a subscription. It's nordvpn.com/Gooner. You can get a 30-day money-back guarantee as well if you're not happy with the service. Right, let's go to part 2, shall we? And tackle your questions, your thoughts, your theories, your queries, and comments. I'm in quite a good mood today. I don't know if I've got off the back off my shift. It's because you start at 8. If you start my shift at 8, it means I finish at 4, which just fills me with a lot more energy, and I've got loads left. So let's tackle part 2 and your question, shall we? Right after this. Okay, shall we jump into the chat and we can have a discussion about what you want to talk about regarding tomorrow's game, of which I'm not going to be there. So just fair warning, the bad omens, hopefully they will not resurface. Culture Mark says, Tom, you are optimistic and there's nothing wrong with that. Keep up the good work. Thank you, mate. Very much appreciate that. And no, I don't think there's anything wrong with being optimistic and a little bit confident. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I've always am the optimistic one, I feel. So yeah, certainly I feel entitled to be relatively optimistic going into this game. Justice, can we do a stream together? Phone-in shows are certainly something that I'd love to do more of. And there's always in my mind about when I'm going to fit the next one in. I hope to do one over the international break. It sadly didn't happen, but maybe next week we'll have an opportunity. I know that throughout November, I'm going to have plenty of opportunities because my missus is in Australia for like 2.5 weeks. So there's going to be evenings where I'm going to be pretty bored, and I'm going to be relying on you guys because we're going to have some phone-ins through November. I'm looking forward to that. I've got some ideas which I want to trial during that period. Martin says, hi Tom, read Jared Gillett and the VAR previous with us at home against Palace 3 seasons ago, a disallowed goal in the last minute for us with a foul that a Palace player committed. We got the apology. I don't remember that at all. I don't know if I've erased that from my memory, but I genuinely don't remember that happening. I frankly have lost the will to care in regards to who the officials are these days. I've really genuinely lost the will to give you know what, because they're all just not good enough. They are just not good enough. And so I just don't think that there's any reason to get worked up or worried about who is in charge, because they're all flawed. They all aren't perfect. They're all, they're gonna make mistakes. And so I don't think there's any reason to look specifically at who is taking charge of the game, because they're all guilty of making those errors. Let's go to Sam. And Sam has tuned in for the first time in a while. He says, don't get much of a chance to see you live, Tom. Glad I could catch today. Thank you for all that you do. And Sam has been a member now for 35 months, 1 month away from being with us for 3 years, part of the TGT family. So thank you, Sam, for that continued support. That's pretty darn awesome, if I do say so myself. Byron says, afternoon, Tom. Question: what did the anxiety feel like in the press conference? Surely you must have been missing your TGT family during the press conference. I was actually covering from home. Kaya was at London Colney. I was just doing the live blog from 8 o'clock here, at home base, if you like. Not from home base, the shop. I realised that for those in the UK, that might be confusing. From what do they call it? Home? What do they call it when you're like going up Everest and you've got the different base camp? That's it. Yes, we're at base camp. I was covering it from, yeah, I did miss the show this morning. It was horrible not doing it. It's become part of me. When I don't do it, it's a real bane of mine. So yeah, certainly. I'm very happy that I'm able to bring you the show this afternoon. Amira says, if we draw tomorrow, still not a loss, regardless of the performance, how much do you think it could downplay the win against City? Oh, without a doubt, quite a lot. I think it would be downplaying things quite significantly if we, not downplaying things, downplaying the victory, because you need to build upon that. It's a result that you have to build on. You have to use that momentum to push forwards. And if we don't do that, if we aren't able to do that successfully by not getting a result tomorrow, then yeah, I think absolutely it will. It will be very frustrating to not have. Rob Bob says, "Can you do a Benny Blanco special, please?" And the answer is, without a doubt, I'd love to do one dedicated just specifically to Benny Blanco, especially with his new haircut. But I don't know when I'm going to fit that in. I'd love to do a dedicated Ben White, just a whole Ben White appreciation podcast. Don't know when I'm going to be able to do that, but there you go. Let's go to Amberly says, absolutely 1 step forwards, 2 steps back if we don't pick up 3 points tomorrow. I think it's more 2 step forwards, 1 step back, because if the idea that beating City is just 1 step and not winning against Chelsea is 2 steps back, I don't think that's necessarily fair. Maybe it's 1 step, 1 step. I don't know why I'm choosing to use this analogy that Amberley's put toward me, but I feel like that was a huge result, a massive, massive result against City. And so it's probably 2 steps forward and then 1 step, maybe 1 and a bit back, which would be very, very frustrating indeed for Arsenal if they weren't able to pick up a result, because we know we're very, very capable of getting a result, I think, and have shown that over the last few seasons at Chelsea. We've managed to pick up some really, really good results. So there is no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that going forward. Sorry, I nearly absolutely just smashed a bottle of glass to my side while I'm trying to do things and multitask, and I'm just literally was just putting my phone on charge, and goodness me, that was close. Bless says, have you heard the song Dribble the Thing Like Saka? I haven't. I haven't heard that, Bless. No, sorry, mate. Send me a link on socials to where I can catch it. I've not heard that one. Byron says, Benjamin is a walking oxymoron. The man doesn't really have a passion for footy outside of the field of play, but he plays like a man driven by a passion for football. It is a little, by the way, I love the use of the word oxymoron. Any chance to use some high-level vocab, it is much appreciated. I think we've used words today. We've used hubristic. That's a great word. Basically means like you're a bit full of yourself about a certain thing if you're showing a lot of hubris. And now oxymoron's finding its way into the chat box. Always happy to encourage you to drop in that high-level vocab. As a former teacher, it is appreciated, even though my usage of vocabulary is very limited at times. But I love, it is varied. There is a juxtaposition. Oh, there's another one. Between kind of the passion of Ben White off the field and then how he displays it. And he's just a professional. He's just professionally very good. I feel like I could have used a different synonym for very good, but I certainly think that there is, it's great to watch Benny Blanco play. He's absolutely still one of the most underrated players in the team. And until he gets, for some reason, unless he's getting more minutes in that England side, it just continues to mock what is a ridiculous decision by Gareth Southgate not to use him. So, yeah, there you go. Arsenal Adventure. Carter says, are you okay with Saka playing a sub role until Newcastle, as he might need more time to be 100% fit? It depends how fit he is. It's a hard question to answer because we don't know, how fit he is. He could be perfectly fine, in which case there's no real reason why we shouldn't use him, really, is there? Because, if he's fit enough to get onto the bench and you're fit enough to use him, use him. Only he knows his body more than anybody else. Obviously, Arteta will have a hand, as will the doctors, in knowing how ready he is. I think he hopefully will be, ready to start, and that's what's most important. Let's go to Bradley Martin says, Tom, can you give a shout out to a new Gooner? My wife and I had a little girl last Tuesday called Goldie. Oh, congratulations, Bradley, and I wish you all the safety and happiness in the world that you can get with your little one. Fantastic name. Love that. Hopefully Arsenal can replicate a Goldie Invincibles trophy. I wonder if there was any inspiration from Arsenal's gold trophy. But congratulations, Bradley, and to your wife as well. And I wish you all the best in the world. Congratulations. And I'm sure the chat box, indeed it already is, giving you plenty of very kind comments as well. Z-Boy says, watching the England game tomorrow. All of my attention is very much on Arsenal tomorrow. I'm going to be working the game. I'm going to be covering the game. I'm not sadly from Stamford Bridge, but I will be covering it from the safety of base camp. That said, I'm realizing now that I may or may not be, hopefully, will be able to do the show on Monday. But there is an open training session at Arsenal on Monday that I may be in attendance for ahead of the game against Sevilla. So, goodness me, there may not even be a show on Monday. I will have to sort something out on Sunday to cover that if indeed we don't have something. But I need to get down to London Colney on Monday to make sure that you've got all the latest team news for you. So we'll work something out. I'm sure we will. Steve says, a very warm welcome to the Arsenal family, Goldie. Absolutely. Let's keep those very kind messages coming in. It's always great to see kind of the power that this fan base has. I feel like this is a good point to probably announce the date of our live event. I'm still not going to be able to release tickets to our live event until the start of next month, I don't think. But I think it's probably a good time. It's a nice time, especially with that news that's come through from a member of our community, that it's probably a good moment to discuss the live event. Now, I'm not going to reveal to you our guests yet, and there's still some things that need to be tied up and sorted out and finished. But certainly I can tell you that on the 22nd of February next year, which is a Thursday evening, which I know for Londoners is a great day. Thursday is almost like Friday in London sometimes because people love taking their Fridays off and then chilling and going out on a Thursday. So we're going to play into that and we're going to use that Thursday. So Thursday, the 22nd of February is when we are going to be doing our live event 2.0, if you will. Information on the venue will be also be coming out very shortly, but I can tell you that it is indeed in North London and near Angel is where we're going to be hosting this one, which is quite nice considering North London forever and all of that, which I think works pretty nicely indeed. So I look forward to bringing you some more information about our next live event. I really hope that plenty of you can come along and that will be in attendance. And if you didn't come to the last one, maybe you can get along to this one. If you came along to the last one, make it 2 for 2. And join the TGT crew and hopefully some fantastic guests as well. So will I sing? Jalali, if you come along, I might. Maybe we'll do a joint Kai Havertz rendition of Waka Waka together. That might be. Arsenal Venture says, it's unfair for fans not based out of London. Do a Europa tour, Tom. If I was made of money and I was certain that we had the fan base outside of London, I was sure that I would be doing that. But sadly, yeah, I can't commit to that as much as I would love to. Anne says, are Chelsea good? And should I be more worried? Because I'm not. Chelsea are very difficult to judge is probably the best way to put it. They're very, very difficult to judge. I don't know. I don't know. I guess tomorrow will reveal to us a little bit more about Chelsea and how good they are because, yeah, you're right. It is difficult to know at the moment how good Chelsea are. I think they're okay and I think they've got potential. And I think the XG of their season shows that, they're maybe worth more points than they've got on the board, as Arteta suggested. but it's very difficult, very, very difficult to know how good they really are. Maximir says, Tom, can you please go to the bridge tomorrow? We tend to do well when you go to the matches. You're not wrong, but sadly I can't. So let's hope that whatever omen that has apparently existed, just bearing in mind that I did go all the way to France and watched us lose to Lens. That also happened. So yeah, it's not been a perfect run, but what I would say is that I wasn't at the game for the Fulham draw. I wasn't at the game for the Spurs draw. I did go to the City game that we won. Maybe it's an Emirates thing. Maybe it's away from home. Maybe if I go to away games, I don't know. I am a little bit superstitious. I'll be lying if I said I wasn't. But yeah, maybe there's something in that. Vala says that we should do a quick stop in Reykjavik for the next. Yes, I can see it now. Lighting up Iceland, the TGT live show. That would be the most expensive trip to do. Iceland's incredibly expensive to visit. I don't know what it's like to live there. I'm sure it's probably equally as expensive, but maybe the wages match the costs of stuff. But still, yeah, insanely expensive to go to Iceland. It's a place I've always wanted to go to, but I haven't so far been able to take the plunge. TJR says Sterling is good. Jackson is a bit meh. Madueke is fun, but they're very mid. It doesn't mean we'll win. I really hate this word, mid. It's gradually worked its way. It's the vocabulary of Arsenal and football Twitter and elsewhere as well. The word mid. I can't say I'm a fan of it. I don't know where it's really spawned from. I just don't like it. I don't know why. I find it really odd as a word. Like, that's mid. I think it means that's like average. Like, it just means it's a bit so-so. They're just very mid. To be fair, they are mid-table, which would be the most kind of like accurate description of Chelsea, I guess. They are mid-table. So they are literally mid. I just seen that word work its way into the vocab of a lot of people online. It's like, yeah, I know it means mediocre, but I've seen it used in some really kind of derogatory contexts, and I'm not a big fan of it when it starts to use it in that sense. Byron says, lovely, mate. Quite a few South Africans part of the TGT family. Love to all my fellow South African Gooners in the chat. Indeed. I don't know if I mentioned this on the show, but Sasha, who is one of our long-term members, he actually came to visit the UK, and I was leaving the Brentford game, and I literally ran from the G-Tech Community Stadium, I think it's called, and I was running to Gunners. Is it Gunnersbury? I think it is the station to come off to go to the stadium or to go back home. And I just get this tap on the shoulder, and it's Sasha at the station. It was one of the best kind of things from a TGC standpoint that's happened, because all of the things that had to align for that to happen. He had to leave the stadium. I had to run as much as I did back to that station to get on that same train. It was great. And it's always great meeting supporters, but particularly those that make a long trip over from another country. I remember Ed popped over. I know that a fair few others have as well. If I start naming people will get offended because I've not mentioned them. But yeah, it's great to see so many people tune in and then visit and then get to meet people. It's always absolutely amazing when that happens. Saya says, proudly South African here too, living in the Netherlands. I feel well represented on this channel. Lovely stuff. There's a lot of South Africans in the chat box. There's a lot of African listeners we've got as well from all over the world. It's great to see such a global listenership as well. Hamberley says, yeah, that is one of the craziest it was a crazy coincidence that it happened, but it was great. And Sasha's obviously come on a lot of our preview shows, and he's a big part of our Discord server. So yeah, certainly it was great. It's quite funny because I was in the mix zone. The mix zone, like at Brentford, is like just the players walk through the mix zone and then they go on to the coaches. But there's a gap between the coaches and the mix zone, and in that gap there's like a fence, and that fence is like where all the fans line up. And Sasha said that he texted me on Discord, and I missed it because I was in the mix zone doing the interviews with El Neni and Smith Rowe, I think it was that day. And he was saying he could see me, but I completely missed all the messages until I actually saw him. So it was, in the end, quite lucky that it worked out. Joey says, you need an Indie Gooners scarf, Tom. Yeah, the scarves is something I enjoy. I keep getting given scarves. Morgie's recently given me a scarf. I had somebody at the live event give me a scarf, and it's really going to bother me that I've forgotten. I had a few people give me scarves. I got one sitting on sitting on my door frame over there. I got 3 up there. These are the first 3 I've ever given, which was kind of like one of the big reasons as to why they're up there, because, you know, people being generous and giving me the scarves as early as possible. But Cincy Gooners from Matt Hayhow. Chicago Gooners, obviously one I brought back from Chicago. And it was great to see so many people in Chicago that listen to the channel. And then the Fort Lauderdale Gooners from Craig as well, which is always a pleasure to see him. So yeah, some great stuff and some great things. I know we've gone off on a big tangent. If you've tuned in expecting a press conference breakdown, you might want to rewind, because I'm kind of in one of these chatty moods this afternoon. So we're just engaging with the chat box a little bit more. But if you've got Arsenal questions, keep throwing them in, because we will tackle them. But I'm just in the mood to have a bit of a chat, because I missed, obviously, the show this morning. So I feel guilty. So I feel like I should stick around a little bit longer for you guys. Do go listen to our preview show that we did. I know the connectivity was a little bit poor yesterday, but do go listen to it. It was great to have a chat with the boys about tomorrow's game. So if you want to get more Arsenal content around the game, you can do that. I've done some articles on football.london today as well. I did a really kind of funny piece saying about how we're still living rent-free in Matteo Guendouzi's head. You can give that a read if you like. So there you go. Vivian says, my pet grammar hate is when somebody says that we will get a result when they mean that we will get a win. That's not what result means. You were guilty of that earlier, Tom, but I forgive you. I feel like the word result, it has multiple meanings. I do feel like you can say the word result still very much as kind of a, you know, it means win, doesn't it? We got the result. We got the win. We got the result. I think that's fine. I think maybe it's a Britishism. I don't know if maybe I'm being ignorant of your background. I don't know if you're based here in the UK, Viv, but certainly it's a very English thing, I think. But I think it's not even just English. I think it's pretty global to say we got the result. I don't know if it, you know, is born here or not, but yeah, let's see. Rob Bob says, how's the golf going? I'm a 7 handicapper and you're welcome over here in New Zealand for a golf tour. Thanks, mate. That's very kind of you. It's not going at the moment. I haven't played golf in a long while. The weather's not been particularly great. We kind of moved out of golf season. I need to get more down the range and do some more practicing during this period. But yeah, it's been frustratingly not too often. I don't know what my handicap is. I'm going to sign up to like I'm going to get involved with a club next year and properly get a full-on handicap. But I'm looking forward to that, because yeah, it's not particularly the weather for golf at the moment. Barry says, Tom, I was lucky enough to pick up a ticket for the Wolves game. Congrats, mate. That's great. I hope you have a fantastic time. When is the Wolves game? Matches. Let's have a quick look. We play Wolves. This is really awkward trying to work this. On the 2nd of December. It's a home game. I will be there for that. Probably doing some filming outside the ground if the weather permits, because December is not particularly great for those types of things. Salahuddin says, for us to compete for the league, I guess we have to beat Chelsea. Do you agree? Absolutely. Adam says, am I off base? I've heard some wild Chelsea fans saying their midfield is better than ours. I think a combination of 2 of our midfielders and Win the Dog would still beat theirs. They do have Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo, who are very, very good. Very good indeed. I am actually going to be jumping on with Elizabeth Helenek. You can find her on social media. You can find her on YouTube at 5. So literally in 25 minutes, I'm going to be jumping on with Elizabeth, who is a big Chelsea fan and produces a lot of Chelsea content. So that's your job. So in 25 minutes, I don't know if it's live, actually. It might be pre-recorded. So yeah, it probably is. Now I'm thinking about it, it's probably pre-recorded, but I'll certainly share the video when it drops, if it drops publicly. It should be dropping. So and we're doing a little bit of a combined 11, I think she wants to do. So let's see if how many Chelsea players make it into a combined 11 of Chelsea and Arsenal. I won't do it now because I would feel like I'm stepping on her toes a little bit with the content. But yeah, do tune in. That's Elizabeth Helenek and her content on her channel. I'll certainly share it on the community tab when it drops. Lucas says, should Chelsea be more under pressure for this match because of because of the £1 billion that they spent? Their stats are not as bad as we think. They're not. And again, this is a point that's been pointed out a couple of times. It isn't as bad as people think. And certainly they are, I think, it's easy to underestimate them. But at the same time, I really don't like giving Chelsea any kind of credit at all. And to the best of my ability, I will continue to avoid giving them credit as much as I can. So, yeah, I look forward to seeing what happens tomorrow. I just hope that we can kind of, really stamp our authority on a game, which we should, we should ultimately be, winning. So let's wait and see what happens. Let's go into the chat box a little bit more and tackle some more questions. Stephen says, at this stage of the campaign, what keeps you up at night the most regarding Arsenal? I'm glad that you added that little bit about Arsenal at the end. A very different answer. But injuries, I guess, as well. Injuries is the main thing. For me, like, form is also a big thing. And the results is always a big thing. If you don't work, and I know that this always comes across like I'm such an entitled idiot. It's the most polite way of putting it. Whenever I moan about anything to do with my job, because I know I'm in a very, very privileged position to do what I do. But there is part of me that's like, whenever we lose, my week is like hell after we lose. Like, if it's an international break and we've lost the game before the break, it's awful. Because, like, if it's not your job, you can kind of just jump away sometimes. You can go off and do whatever, and, but because it's my job, results and losing games probably keep me up the most sometimes. Because if we're doing poorly, it means that I've not only got to jump on and have a chat about Arsenal and ultimately probably get into a few arguments and debates and start ranting, trying to defend the club when I think it's worthy of being defended. But it's like, I think that's the thing that keeps me up the most, is the threat of losing and what that will then do to the mood of the fan base, the mood of you guys in the chat box. And, ultimately the things I'm then going to have to be kind of thinking about, writing about the next day in work. So I think that's probably the thing that keeps me up most, is the potential for us to lose games. That is really genuinely something that causes me a lot of anxiety. Sam says, why do Arsenal have so many jealous exes like Guendouzi? Because if it's not worked out for you at Arsenal, it rarely works out elsewhere. I know that in the past we've seen some success from players like Van Persie or Nasri, but more recently, if you leave Arsenal, it's not. I mean, Guendouzi is a great example. It's not exactly pulled up trees, has he? Since moving to initially Marseille, and now he's at Lazio, and he's kind of, aiming little digs at Arsenal. I don't know if you saw this, but he came out and said something on the lines of he got a warm welcome at Lazio, he got a warm welcome at Marseille, but not so much at Arsenal. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Unai Emery gave you a debut against Man City on the first game of the season. Your welcome could not have been warmer. You could not have been given a better starting opportunity. He's a teenager, signed from Lorient. No one knew who he was. And Unai Emery is starting him in a massive game against Man City on the opening game of the season. It's just not true. Like, it's just wrong. It's just not true. And certainly he was given a very warm welcome to Arsenal. And you hear, really good and positive things about the Arsenal behind the scenes as well. I know that during Emery's time at the club, it wasn't always the best, but certainly that period was fine. So I really didn't get Guendouzi's complaints. It didn't make too much sense to me at all, really. So yeah, very, very, very strange one indeed. Wayne says, I think we always seem to kill Chelsea with pace, so I would consider starting Nketiah for this one. He has a good record against Chelsea. I mean, there's lots of pace in Jesus, Saka and Martinelli, so I'm not sure that we need to throw Nketiah in there over any of those players. I'd personally be starting our usual starting three. Amberley says, Guendouzi is one of the lads who just comes across as someone who can't come to terms with the fact that he was dumped for somebody better. Absolutely. Arsenal outgrew Guendouzi, and Guendouzi wasn't willing to kind of, in some ways kind of mold himself into what Arteta wanted from a team. And he wasn't ever willing to take responsibility for his own actions. And the amount of times he was given an opportunity to apologise for some of those actions and didn't take it, it was multiple opportunities, to my understanding, that he was given during his time at Arsenal and didn't take those opportunities to apologise. So, yeah. I think we're better off without him. I don't think we've missed him. I think that a lot of Arteta's biggest haters and critics use the Guendouzi thing as a bit of a stick to beat the manager with, but I don't think they're using it anymore. He's fumbled his career, to be honest, at the start of things. I don't want him to fail. That would be, I think a little bit too dark, but I'm completely indifferent about Matteo Guendouzi. I'm lacking in care for what happens, but yeah, there you go. Vala says, after watching Sex Education, I can't get Otis out of my head when watching. If you've not watched Sex Education, it's brilliant. It is an 18 plus, so if you're under 18, you'll need to watch with a parent. I should advise that. Although you may not want to watch it with your parents, is what I would say, but it's a brilliant program, and certainly I would recommend it to those that are very comfortable with themselves. It's what I would say. It's the best way to probably put it. Byron says, I've been a Gooner since 2001, Tom. Win or lose, I love my team. Will ride or die for my club, even if we play in the 4th division. And fair play to you, Byron. One of the biggest challenges when we were going through a period of frustration, especially under Arteta, and we had that period where we were 8th 2 seasons in a row. That feels like an age away now, a long time ago, and we were like in the bottom half of the table. But ultimately, one of the biggest frustrations was the amount of people that were willing to go out of their way to say that they wanted Arsenal to lose because it brought them closer to potentially Mikel Arteta being sacked. They're not the actions of fans. They're just not fans. That's not what a fan does. A fan sticks with the club thick and thin. You can have opinions. You can be critical. You can think that maybe the coach that's in charge isn't the right man for the job. That's fine. I've got no issue with that. If you can back up your argument, I'll listen to it and I'll debate it. And if I think you've made a reasoned view, it might even change my mind. I'm more than open to that. But what I will never, ever, ever think is justifiable is ever wanting your team to lose unless the situation is incredibly specific. And what I mean by that is that if Arsenal losing meant Spurs missed out on a title, that's worth losing for. But if it meant that Spurs, won a title, or rather didn't win the title, but ultimately also cost us something significant, that even in itself is something that's maybe not even worth it. It'd be very, 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 very strange indeed. Anne says, I was watching another content channel. You're still the best, man. You don't need to explain yourself to me, Anne. And they were talking about the need to keep things simple for Havertz, so giving him a run at centre forward might give him more confidence. Who was it? Who were you listening to? I'm curious. Sounds like a very Clive thing to say. I think for Havertz, he needs himself to do the simple things. He himself needs to be encouraged to just work on the basics, do the basic things right. That's what he did against City. Got the ball, laid it off, boom, goal. Just do the simple things. Don't try and work too hard. I think that it's important to do the simple things. So whoever was saying that, whatever channel it was, Adam Starner says that it was the Different Knock, who are, I think, a relatively new channel on the block, but they've grown significantly, and fair play to them. They're doing some really fantastic things. Yeah, I think that certainly in regards to Havertz, if he keeps it simple, if he's put into another position in the team, and I think centre forward is better for him. I think the closer he is to the box, the more positive impact he can have on games. I'm not sold on the midfield role. I've never really have been sold on it. I was very skeptical of it. I was very keen to see him play in an attacking position, and he wasn't. So, yeah, let's wait and see. And Maximia says, Tom, what's your take on the new leaked training kit? It looks a bit reptilian, maybe. Is this the... is it Maharishi? Is that... I think I've written an article on it, so I should know, really. It is Maharishi. The kit in question, for those that haven't seen it, let me see if I can find the picture of it. Footy headlines. I mean, I can show you my article if you like. It's very, very, what's the word? Self-indulgent. But I suppose I should probably be promoting Football London over anything else. Let me share my screen with you all, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. So yeah, here's the article. Stunning new Arsenal training kit leaked as Adidas take Maharishi direction no one saw coming. Oh, king of the headlines there. But yes, this is the piece here from Footy Headlines. You can see the design of it. If I click on the link, it's not going to let me show you there. But if we just jump over to footy headlines in particular. Let me share my screen once again with you all. Here we go, footy headlines. And scroll down. So that's kind of the pre-match jacket. It's not, as far as I'm aware, it's not a training kit. I'm pretty sure it's a pre-match kit. So it's like, you know, when we had the green, black, and yellow. I think it was kind of that was a training kit. We had the one I wear. It's like I can't even describe it. It's such a strange design. It's like black with like white effect over it with red accents on it. So yeah, it's a collaboration between Adidas and Maharishi. I think it's great. I really like it. It's like a snakeskin type camo. I'll certainly be getting it. So yeah, I really like it. Is what I would say. It's a darker color. You know me, I love my darker colored kits. I don't know if you saw, I'm assuming it was a concept and a bit of a leaked one, but there were some tweets going around yesterday on like a purple black kit for next season. I think that it's a designer just kind of designing his own kits and putting them out. I don't know how real it is. I could be wrong. It could be the real thing. I hope it's the real thing. But if you saw it, it was kind of like a purple and black design. Looked at something a little bit out of kind of the last few animated Spider-Man films. It was kind of like that. It really was quite impressive. And if Arsenal are to move in that direction, I'm so on board of it. So on board of it. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what happens. But I'm looking forward to next year's kits when they're released. But I'm more looking forward to tomorrow's game. And I'm hoping that we can bring home the result that we need, because it is a big game for Arsenal. It's a big chance to get a result over one of our biggest rivals, of course, in Chelsea. And I hope that if you're not able to watch it, you'll follow the coverage over on football.london. I'll be running the live blog over there. So make sure that you tune in for that. I hope you've appreciated this slightly longer show. Apologies that it's not at 8 a.m. as it usually is. But I hope you appreciate it all the same. I hope you've had a fantastic day and that you continue to have a great week. I hope you continue to, in what is obviously at this moment in time with everything that's going on in the world, I hope that you continue to stay safe and stay well and stay healthy. And yeah, certainly I hope that we can go into tomorrow's game with plenty of positivity. Have a fantastic day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. And as always, up the Arsenal.